My husband threw me down the second-floor stairs after beating me for 3 straight hours. I woke up in the hospital 2 days later with 6 broken ribs and a face so swollen I could barely open my eyes. That's when I discovered he had run off with my neighbor, the same one who smiled at me every morning. Hi there, my loves. My name is Dorothy Wilson, but everyone calls me Grandma Dot. I'm 73 years old, born and raised in Pikeville, Kentucky, coal country. But I've been living in Louisville for 40 years now. I ended up in this big city because of a story I'm going to tell for the first time online today. A story I've kept buried deep in my heart, like a thorn that hurts, but that you can't remove. Before I begin, I want to mention that the Grandparents' Tales channel is having a $200 giveaway to celebrate reaching 10,000 subscribers. I can hardly believe so many people are interested in this old lady's stories. To participate, it's simple. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, like this video, and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from, a little about yourself, or share a beautiful story. I'd love to know who you are, my virtual grandchildren. Now, let's get back to my story. I was born in 1951 in a simple house in rural Pikeville. My father, Mr. Anthony, worked in the coal mines. He came home every day with black dust in his hair that looked like snow. I thought it was beautiful, but now I know that dust slowly killed him, his lungs destroyed by that coal dust. My mother, Mrs. Elizabeth, took in laundry and made the best homemade bread in town. We were poor, but it never crossed my mind that we were missing anything in our lives. Our house was small but cozy. 2 bedrooms, one for my father and mother, another for me and my 2 sisters. A kitchen with a wood stove that stayed lit all day. A backyard with apple, peach, and cherry trees, and a vegetable garden my mother tended as if it were a palace garden. The smell of my childhood was bread coming out of the oven and freshly brewed coffee. The sound was the little battery radio playing Elvis Presley and my mother humming along. The colors were her flowered dress twirling as she swept the house, and the blue Kentucky sky that seemed cleaner than anywhere else in the world. My mother always said, "Dorothy, when you find a man, make sure he looks at you the same way your father looks at me." And it was true. My father looked at my mother as if she were the most precious thing in the world. Even after a full day breaking rocks underground, he would come home and hug her from behind while she cooked, kiss her forehead, and ask about her day. "A man who respects you respects everything you are," my father would say when he saw me daydreaming about the love stories in magazines. I never settled for less than that, my daughter. I grew up believing that love was like that. Simple, respectful, full of small gestures. I thought all men treated women the way my father treated my mother. The innocence of a girl raised in a good family. School was far away. I walked almost an hour to get there, but I didn't mind. I loved studying and dreamed of becoming a teacher. I had a way with words, reading everything I could get my hands on. My father, even with little education, encouraged me. Education is the only thing nobody can take from you, my daughter. I completed teacher training school, graduating in 1970 at 19, the pride of the family. I was the first to have a diploma. My father cried at graduation, hiding it, thinking nobody saw, but I saw, and that silent tear meant more than any speech. I started teaching at a small school near home, children from 7 to 10 years old, mixed class. I loved my work, the purity of the little ones, their joy when they learned to read a new word. I felt useful, important, fulfilled. It was around this time that I met Gerald. He showed up at school one day, enrolling his nephew. Tall, dark-haired, well-groomed with a thin mustache framing a wide smile. He wore a light blue button-down shirt, khaki pants, polished shoes. He wasn't rich, but he dressed with care. "Are you the teacher?" he asked, looking at me in a way that made me blush immediately. "Yes, I am. Dorothy Wilson, nice to meet you." "The pleasure is all mine. Gerald Thompson." His hand was large, warm, firm. When he shook mine, I felt a shiver I'd never felt before. His nephew joined my class. And, coincidentally or not, Gerald always came to pick up the boy after school. Always well-dressed, always smiling, always with a compliment ready. "Teacher Dorothy, you look beautiful when you teach. Your eyes shine." Excuse my boldness, but that dress was made for you. I admire educated women. Is there anything more beautiful than intelligence? I, a country girl, raised with solid values, but with no experience in dating, fell for it like a little duck. Each compliment was like water to my garden of romantic dreams. Each smile made my heart race like a galloping horse. One day, he invited me for ice cream after school. I was nervous. I'd never gone out alone with a man. But I accepted. I told my mother, who was concerned, "Daughter, be careful. Men who are too handsome usually know they're handsome. But Mom, he's respectful. He hasn't even tried to hold my hand." "Not yet," she said, with the wisdom of someone who's lived. "Not yet. But who listens to mother's advice when your heart is beating fast?" I went on the date, and it was perfect. Gerald was funny, intelligent, full of stories. He worked as a salesman for a furniture store in Pikeville. He dreamed of having his own business someday. "I want to provide comfort for my future wife," he said, looking at me in a way that made it clear who that wife would be. The courtship started slowly, always respectful, always within the limits I set. Gerald came to our house on Sundays, had lunch with my family. He won my father over with talk of baseball and politics. He won my mother over by helping wash the dishes afterward, something no man did in those days. "This young man seems good," my father commented after a few months. "But go slowly, my daughter. Just because he shows his good side doesn't mean there isn't a hidden bad side." Oh, how I wish I had listened to my father. In the first 6 months, Gerald was the Prince Charming from romance novels. He brought me flowers picked along the way, wrote me romantic notes, respected me as if I were made of crystal. Our kisses were affectionate. His hands never crossed the boundaries. "I want to do everything right with you, Dorothy," he would say. "You deserve a man who values you." And I believed him. Of course I believed him. Why wouldn't I? I had grown up seeing my father treat my mother this way, with affection, respect, dedication. I thought that was how every man treated the woman he loved. After a year of dating, the marriage proposal came. It wasn't a surprise to anyone. Gerald had already won over the whole family, was a regular at Sunday lunches, accompanied me to church. Everyone in Pikeville thought we made the perfect couple. The engagement was simple, at my parents' house. A small party with orange cake made by my mother, soda, snacks. My father gave an emotional speech, talking about how he had raised a daughter for the world and was now entrusting his treasure to another man to care for. "Take care of her as I did, my son," he said, firmly holding Gerald's shoulder. "She is everything I hold most precious. You can count on it, Mr. Anthony. I'll make her the happiest woman in the world." The wedding was set for 6 months later. Those months were a rush, preparing the trousseau, getting the house ready, distributing invitations. Gerald had rented a small house near the school where I taught. Small but comfortable, with a little yard where I already planned to make a garden like my mother's. Anxiety grew as the wedding approached. Aunts and cousins came with advice about the wedding night, making me blush like a tomato. Friends joked, saying I would become a real woman. My mother, more sensible, just hugged me and said, "Daughter, remember that your body is your temple. Even married, you have the right to say no when you don't want to. A man who loves you will understand and respect that." Advice I kept, but would soon discover didn't apply to the man I was marrying. The wedding was in January 1972. I was 20, Gerald 27. The ceremony was at the First Baptist Church, where I had been baptized. I wore the wedding dress that my mother and aunts had hand-sewn, saving on every detail so I could have this dream come true. When I entered the church on my father's arm, I saw Gerald waiting for me at the altar. That wide smile, shining eyes, the rented suit that fit his body perfectly. I remember thinking, this is the man of my life. With him, I will be happy forever. The honeymoon was in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, at a simple inn near the mountains. Gerald had saved for months to give me this gift. In those days, spending a week in the mountains was a luxury for people like us. It was also the first time we slept together, that we really touched. Gerald was affectionate, patient with my inexperience. At first, at least. After 2 days, he began to show a more demanding, more authoritarian side in bed. "My woman has to satisfy me the way I like," he said one night, forcing me to do things that made me uncomfortable. I swallowed my tears and obeyed. He was my husband, after all. Wasn't that what wives did? Please their husbands? We returned to Pikeville and began our married life. The first months were adjustment, learning to cook for two, sharing space, balancing work with household chores. Gerald continued working at the furniture store, and I kept teaching. Our salaries, together, were enough to live with modest comfort. Gradually, I began to notice small changes in his behavior. Complaints about the food I made, questions about who I had talked to at work, demands about how I should dress. That skirt's too short for a married woman. Why do you need to wear lipstick to teach children? Who is this John that waits for you after school? John was the 70-year-old janitor. But for Gerald, any man who spoke to me was cause for jealousy. Around this time, I became pregnant for the first time. I was so happy. I had always dreamed of being a mother. When I told Gerald, he smiled, hugged me, promised he would be the best father in the world. For a few weeks, he returned to being the man I had fallen in love with. Affectionate, attentive, romantic. Until I lost the baby in the 3rd month. Heavy bleeding, pain, hospital, immense sadness. When I returned home, Gerald was different, cold, distant, as if it were my fault. You should have taken better care, he said one night. Working, walking around. You lost my son through carelessness. That was the first time I cried hidden in the bathroom, with the faucet running so he wouldn't hear me. But it wouldn't be the last. After the miscarriage, Gerald changed completely. The mask fell off entirely. The Prince Charming turned into a frog, and what a poisonous frog, my God. Folks, I see this story is getting long, but I really want to share everything with you. I need to take a moment to ask, if you're enjoying this account, would you help me by clicking like and subscribing to the channel? Each new subscription warms this grandma's heart. And don't forget to comment where you're watching from. Back to the story. The first year of marriage ended with a reality very different from what I had dreamed. Gerald was no longer the attentive and affectionate man from our courtship. Now he was controlling, jealous, always in a bad mood. He criticized everything. My cooking, my clothes, my way of talking, even my way of breathing seemed to irritate him. You breathe too loudly. How do you expect me to sleep with that noise? Gradually, I closed myself off. Talking less, smiling less, trying to do everything perfectly to give no reason for complaints. I was walking on eggshells in my own home. Even so, I still believed we could work out, that it was just a difficult phase, that the caring Gerald would return. After all, we had been so happy at the beginning. What had happened to that man? In the 2nd year of marriage, I got pregnant again. This time, I took every precaution. I reduced my workload at school, rested more, followed all medical recommendations. Gerald seemed more excited about this pregnancy, more protective. Now it will work out, he would say, with that smile that had won me over. I'll have my child. But in the 5th month, I lost this baby too. Different complication, same devastating result. The sadness was even greater because I'd already felt the baby move, had already started buying little clothes. This time, Gerald didn't even wait until we left the hospital to show his anger. In the car, on the way home, he started, "There's something wrong with you. Normal women don't lose children like this. My mother had 8 with no problem. The doctor said it happens, Gerald. It's no one's fault. It is your fault. Your body doesn't work right." We arrived home, and he continued, increasingly aggressive in his words. For the first time, I threw in his face everything that had been stuck in my throat for months. "And you think you help? With your bad mood, your criticism, your way of treating me like a maid?" That's when I received the first slap. Hard, in the face, throwing me against the wall. The taste of blood in my mouth, the shock greater than the pain. "Never talk to me like that again," he said through his teeth. "I'm your husband. You owe me respect." That night, while he slept, I thought about running away, going back to my parents' house, but I felt ashamed. What would they think? The daughter who couldn't keep her marriage, who couldn't give them grandchildren? At that time, a separated woman was viewed differently. She was a failure, a woman who couldn't keep her husband. And I, raised to be the perfect wife, didn't want that label. So I swallowed my tears and stayed. First mistake of many. The 3rd year of marriage was when everything fell apart completely. Gerald lost his job at the furniture store, a fight with the boss, something about money missing from the register. He swore innocence, but his eyes had that gleam I had learned to recognize when he lied. He was unemployed for months. I supported the house with my teacher's salary, which was barely enough for the basics. Drinking, which had always been social, became daily. First a beer at lunch, then two, then whiskey straight from the bottle from early on. Drunk, he got even worse. Criticism turned into insults, slaps turned into punches. I began having to explain black eyes and cut lips to colleagues at work. I fell down the stairs. I hit my face on the cabinet door, the usual excuses. And people pretended to believe them because it was more comfortable than getting involved. My parents, who lived a few streets away, began to suspect. My mother asked me directly, but I denied it. My father looked at Gerald with suspicion on the rare occasions we still visited them. "Daughter, if something is wrong, you know you can come back home," my mother said one day when she caught me crying in the kitchen. "Everything's fine, Mom. It's just a difficult phase. It will pass." But it didn't pass. It only got worse. It was around that time that I noticed the neighbor getting closer. Marcia, a recently divorced woman, about 5 years older than me. Beautiful, blonde-dyed hair, always well-dressed even to stay at home. She worked as a cashier at the supermarket and lived alone in the house next to ours. At first, she was an angel. She brought me homemade cookies, asked if I needed help, talked to me when she saw me crying in the yard. She became a friend, a confidant. "He hits you? Honey, that's not normal. You need to get out of there." "I can't, Marcia. I have nowhere to go." "Yes, you do. The world is big. You're young, beautiful, intelligent. You deserve better." Gerald didn't like the friendship. He said Marcia was a loose woman, that she would lead me astray. I defended her, said she was the only friend I had. What I didn't know was that, while I was teaching, Gerald and Marcia had grown closer, in another way. One day, I found at home a matchbox from a bar on the other side of town. I thought it strange. Gerald usually drank at home or at the corner bar. "I went to check out a new place," he said when I asked. "Now you're going to control where I drink too?" Another time, I smelled a different perfume on his shirt. Sweet, strong perfume. "I bumped into a woman on the bus," he explained, irritated. "Stop being neurotic." All the signs were there. But I didn't want to see them. Or maybe I didn't want to believe that, on top of everything else, he was cheating on me. The new job came 4 months later. Salesman at a hardware store. Lower salary. But at least it was something. I thought things would get better.